What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another randomly scheduled episode of the Man Cave Report from two men still in their caves because COVID cases are literally spiking in 47 of 50 states, with the exception of, surprisingly, Arkansas. Didn't see that one coming. Anyways, everywhere else is a hotspot. We have over 93,000 people in our hospital ICUs, which is more than it was at the initial outbreak or the second spike in July. So stay inside, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have to go outside, wear your mask. For the love of God, you're canceling my football games. Stop it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it. I
Dude,
mean, you look at
stop
the Broncos quarterback situation.
Bro, what do you
Like,
mean?
they're wearing their masks in their meeting room. Like,
what do you mean quarterback situation? They don't have a quarterback. There is no situation. There's no on.
Well, that's like part of the reason why they didn't have a quarterback is because their quarterbacks weren't wearing masks in their meeting room, and one of them ended up testing positive.
Yeah, man. What's interesting is the juxtaposition between what happened to poor Denver and what's happening with this Monday night, Tuesday night, Sunday night, Wednesday night Ravens versus Steelers game. Like, right. they keep moving the game back a night or two because arbitrary reasons, but poor Denver, who's in a they're not in like a primetime slot. They're just playing some team. They're just boo-boo. Or just being told, well, you got to start a guy who you signed on the practice squad a week ago who's actually a wide receiver and turn him into your quarterback in 3 days.
It wasn't even 3 days. They found out on Saturday night that they couldn't. So what they first tried to do was they tried to get their offensive quality control coach, right, to be their quarterback because their coach knows their system really well. Sure. The last time he had played was like a decade ago, right? But he's still young enough to suit up and do it, I guess, right? And so they pled to the NFL that they wanted this to be able to case. And the NFL's like, nah, and you got to still play Sunday. Like, figure it out. And right. Meanwhile,
they're like
they
super
keep on bumping the Pittsburgh Ravens game back a little bit, like one day at a time.
To be fair, like, I'm in some ways I'm a capitalist too, and I think you need to make money where you can. But like, this is a little bit, this is a beyond the pale of like equality, right? Like, if we want to talk about equality as like the main crux of this current stalling for this one particular game, there's no equality there, man. There's no equity. There's just one thing getting done for this game and another thing getting done to the the Broncos.
Meanwhile, I got Pittsburgh's defense on both of my fantasy leagues, and I need those points to get a win. In the one league, I need the points to get the dub so that I can hold on to, so I can secure a first-round bye in the playoffs, which is awesome. But I need that to happen. I don't want to be playing nobody first round. I want to take a week off. The second one, I need to get this win just to make it to the championship playoffs. Like, not the consolation round, but the championships. I need this to get me into that top 4, right? I'm playing the guy who's right above me, right? And
at least you control your own destiny in that one.
I mean, it's control my own destiny in both of them, which is I wouldn't put myself in a position not to, right?
Dude, you could have been me and like had Joe Mixon go on IR, Kenyon Drake go on like injured reserve for a couple of weeks. What else did I have happen? Dude, Zach Ertz, my tight end, was gone. Then my backup was gone. So I ended up finding Austin Hooper in like week 7. Who else did I? Oh, dude, I had to pick up Wayne Gallman as one of my running backs out of nowhere. Pick up Wayne Gallman, dude. And
I was a smart one in both of my leagues last week, and I snagged Taysom Hill with that tight end eligibility going in for as a QB.
Dude,
I made that work last week.
You stick, man, dude. That's what
like a couple dubs there, but
that's what I told one of my coworkers to do. I was like, bro, you need to pick up Taysom Hill if you're in an ESPN league and they have him listed as both, because you can put him in at flex or at tight end and just immediately get 10 points from rushing alone, probably.
Yeah. Well, he got me 27 points.
I know what he did. That
Exactly. But then meanwhile, like, no, man, the injuries this year with fantasy have been incredible. Like,
dude, I also auto drafted T.Y. Hilton, which was probably the dumbest auto draft that could have ever been made.
Bro, like, but here's the thing. If you're a fantasy guy going into this season, you think, okay, T.Y. Hilton's a good receiver, like he has been. There's no reason he wouldn't be, right?
Well, here's the thing.
And then, like, him and Rivers just weren't on the same page at all.
One of my friends who really gets into it was like, dude, this is kind of what sold me. And you remember Rob's brother, Jason, he was like, bro, I was reading a stat that he hasn't gotten more than 80 yards receiving for any quarterback since Andrew Luck. And that just was like a total mind-blowing situation.
Yeah. I mean, when he had Peyton and then when he had Luck, it was a different story. But with Jacoby Brissett and with Rivers, and like, look, Rivers is over the hill now. As a Chargers fan who has been a fan of Felipe Bowtie Rios, you know, Hermano Felipe, that homie is over the hill. He's over the hill. I have nothing but love for the guy.
Over the hill, through the woods, gonna have another 9 kids. Like that's his future.
19 to 2 years old. Can you imagine that? Fuck, man.
Dude, I can't even imagine 2 years old, just period. Like just one child. He's got 9 of them.
He's got 9.
He's the most virile man. Like this is what they write about in biblical stories about the man who's just like obscenely virile and can just do whatever at any time. That's Phillip Rivers, dude. Just look at him. Look at the evidence. The proof is in the pudding.
Dude, right? But he just ain't getting it done this year, and I think that Colts are going to have to look somewhere else next year, either the draft or picking up a halfway decent free agent to hold. You know, Jacoby Brissett's supposed to be the homie, but supposed to be the guy, but he just hasn't really separated himself in that conversation yet with his play. And he's shown signs of being like, you know, hey, I could be this guy, but then like he hasn't really like done it consistently. So I don't know. That whole situation is rough. But as far as fantasy though, like both leagues I'm in, I had the number 1 overall draft pick in my one league. I picked Christian McCaffrey. We all know how that's been turning out this year. I've had him for maybe 4 weeks out of 12. Okay. But those 4 weeks out of 12, he's getting me 35 points a game when he gets in there, right? He's just injured. Then I had Saquon Barkley, obviously torn ACL, like the second week of the season, in that week that 9 ACLs got torn, right? And so I've been like just trying to scramble for running back production this year, which is obviously the key to being consistent fantasy winner. You got to have your 2 running back 1, running back 2, and like a solid flex running back 2 locked up. If you have that taken care of, you will be good in fantasy, right? Especially in like a PPR league where wide receivers, you can pick someone up off the, you know, waiver wire and he's still going to drop 13 for you.
Well, dude, like, I mean, here's a good example. I picked up T. Higgins from the scrap heap, like in week like 4 or 5, after I totally dumped T.Y. Hilton. I also picked up, who's my other? Oh, Fulgham, who had like a 3 or 4 week period where he was putting in work, and then the Eagles reaffirmed their position as just an utter dumpster fire. And now they can't give Carson Wentz more than 3 steps on any drop back or he gets hit. So he has to throw.
East is a joke. The Giants are leading the NFC East at 4-7.
And then, of course, last week, I think because Matt Stafford has been trashed the last few weeks, I decided I'm going to pick up Daniel Jones because he's going to get all these rushing yards and immediately gets injured. Dude, like that's been my fantasy here, bro.
Hammy. Dude, it's been a musical clusterfuck in fantasy this year. This has been one of the toughest fantasy years I think I've ever seen because the ability to predict has gone away due to injuries from like no
COVID, dude.
season, no like and also COVID. So people being out randomly for like COVID stuff, and so it's hard to predict. And then you have like freaking Rex Burkhead, right? Who normally in a normal game would drop like 4 or 5. He's had 2 or 3 games spread out throughout the season where it's like, I'm going to drop 35, right? And you just don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, dude, like here's a perfect example. Look at the entire running back system for the Niners, dude. You had JRJ, Jeff Wilson Jr., put up like 30 points in one game. You had Raheem Mostert in like the first week of the season put up like 20 something because he's actually, dude, he's like a freak, 6'2", 250, and runs like a 4.3, dude. He's a monster. But yeah, you just have like these random like kind of spurts of greatness out of a back for like 1 or 2 weeks. The only consistent ones you've been able to play with all year would be King Henry, like the true king. Forget King James, dude. King Henry. That guy is a
Dalvin Cook.
Dude, Dalvin Cook, but he's been injured even a bit. He was even injured a bit too, but yeah.
Yeah, he's been injured a little bit, but not as much. You know who actually has been the one decent thing in my – so the league I have, Christian McCaffrey, I still haven't dropped him because I'm figuring he's going to be back for playoffs, and I need that.
You think
right?
I don't think they're going to bring him back this year, but, I mean, I guess you kind of have to hope
So they have a bye this next week, right? And they said they're coming off the bye. They're going to bring him back, right? Okay. But in his stead, Mike Davis been dropping 20 a game for me.
Well, that's the thing is like you got to like that was one thing that got me in a fortunate situation because Ronald Jones was not projected to be a number 1 back. They thought Fournette was going to be.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting him super late. And he's been probably my best, most consistent player and just like will just drop days of like 25, 30.
You know who's also been a good running back, a little bit, not as consistent, but when he has a boom day, it's a boom day, is Robinson for Jacksonville.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, dude, I'm surprised that Aaron Jones isn't getting as much of the rock as he was last year, the running back for the Packers, because he was supposed to be like a top 10 running back.
Well, he's been injured the last like 3 or 4 weeks. Just like lately, this last month, he's been injured quite a bit. And so they had
dude, and then there's Zeke Elliott dropping fumbles like he can't contain himself, dude. Like that was another one that I was surprised by too, is how poorly he's been playing all season.
Well, and it's like with his O-line too. It's like, dude, like
half the time he's not even like getting hit, or if he's like getting hit, it's towards the very end of his run. He's just not securing it going into contact. Like it's one thing if you're like running full speed and someone comes out of nowhere and knocks the ball out, but if you're going into a pile, dude, like 2 hands, bro. That's
cover,
like 2 hands.
Cover it through the line. That's what I always teach the kids. Cover it through the line. Gotta keep the 2 hands in the cover.
Dude,
rock out.
Dude, have you been hitting the weights? You look a little leaner in the cheeks, actually.
Dude, I just has been not eating bullshit for the most part.
Isn't it crazy how even just doing that will change things if you keep up the normal activity level?
Yeah. I just haven't been eating as much like garbage. And like right now, and I've been like getting out and like just getting on a walk every day instead of just like, doing nothing.
It's good, dude.
So, you know what I mean?
Dude, got to be ready for my batch next June, July, as long as the 2nd or 3rd round of COVID vaccines are out and they're proven to be effective.
Well, so the FDA just approved one of them, didn't they?
Well, I mean, so like Pfizer has like a $2 billion contract I read with, for like the distribution and like the production of this vaccine and for it being used first kind of thing. But
and then there's Moderna or whatever. But so apparently there's with the Pfizer one, the vaccine has to be like kept extremely cold.
Yeah, it's like 170 degrees below. I don't know. I think it's Celsius.
Yeah, has to be kept like frozen basically until the injection. So that's going to be problematic as far as distribution. So Moderna's has to still be get cold, but not as cold. So
Yeah, so back in July, and this is according to the New York Times and HHS .gov and NPR, actually. It's just so they got a roughly $2 billion contract to produce the coronavirus vaccine from the government. And the US government, as of a couple days ago, yeah, coronavirus vaccine within Operation Warp Speed. But yeah, it has to be stored at like 170 degrees below zero. It's got like a 95% efficacy rate, which is pretty good. I mean, that's actually really good compared to like.
apparently, it's also got, so it's 95% like for mild COVID stuff, but it's like against the really, really harsh stuff, it's actually like 100% effective. So like the bigger viral loads you have, the more effective it is, weirdly, because it like uses the virus against itself. So the more COVID you have, the more virus you have, the more, like the faster it produces that immune response.
Interesting.
That's what I read. I think it was where was it, like New York Times or something today.
Huh. Yeah. Well, it just I always hate when the government subsidizes a massive billion-dollar conglomerate. And I mean, I can also understand like they have resources that smaller guys and biotechs don't have and blah, blah, blah. So like, I understand all that, but like, it's just with all the stuff you see going on within who funds what legislation because of money that's being given to this company by this person or whatever. It's just, when you see stuff like that, it's hard to not be in some ways a little skeptical and have a little tinfoil hat on, because that's probably the most obvious, conspiracy out there, is just like the most obvious one, right? Like,
Yeah.
goes through Occam's razor pretty easily. You're just like, oh, big company, politicians get strange $1 million donations from a super PAC where the donations remain anonymous. And like, well,
Yeah.
all right, $1 million, huh, out of nowhere.
Corporations donate to the PACs. The PACs divvy out the money so that it's not necessarily the corporation's name on the donation to the specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the exact lingo that I was missing there. So.
Yeah. Dude, freaking the Niners holding on, man, barely yesterday.
Dude, first they lost it, then they had to go win it with the last play of the game, the last drive of the game.
Dude, it was scary there at the end of the second quarter, beginning of the third quarter. It was what, like 17 unanswered points real quick. Brought it back to like a tie.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, now they don't have a place to play because Santa Clara County being like ban on contact sports.
So we're going to Arizona, son.
That's what I heard, is that you'll play in Arizona.
Arizona.
That's
home of
weird.
the San Francisco Santa Clara 49ers of California.
What?
Arizona, home of the San Francisco Santa Clara California 49ers.
Yeah. the
How many degrees of separation until you get to Arizona?
The Santa Clara 49ers of San Francisco in Phoenix.
Dude, right. How many degrees of separation do you get from San Francisco to Arizona, dude? Oh my God.
And like, it's just crazy, man. Crazy COVID.
Well, now the NBA season's supposed to start in like 3.5 weeks. And like, they haven't had a preseason yet. Which is really good for teams like the Warriors, who basically rested all of their stars for the last 1.5 years because COVID, and they were trash without Klay Thompson and everyone else.
Yeah.
So,
well, Klay got hurt again too, which is a bummer. But
oh my gosh, dude! Apparently, he got carried off the court in like a pickup game, and that's not. That's unfortunate and really sad.
Super unfortunate. Meanwhile, Curry, I don't know if you were watching this weekend, Curry and Peyton Manning versus
They
Chuck,
lost. They lost.
Chuck, Chuck and Phil.
Dude, if you're losing to Charles Barkley in anything that has to do with golf, unless like Phil Mickelson shot like 12 under par.
Well, it was best ball too. So it was a best ball like whole like game. So basically what you had for Phil and Chuck was you take, Phil's tee shot, and then Chuck would take like a shitty, like, let me get it closer, but not necessarily in the fairway. And then Phil would do like a chip and leave Chuck with like, a 2-foot putt for par. And like, that's how they kept on winning. Meanwhile, freaking Peyton's slicing it off into freaking nowhere in the desert. And then Curry, like, who's supposed to be a scratch player, right? Curry is doing the same thing, playing like absolute garbage, and they just couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done. It was super funny, though.
It's unfortunate that the lack of sports has caused us to look upon such events as that match game you were just talking about in golf. And then we also got the preordained fight tie between Roy Jones and anyone who watched that fight knows that Mike Tyson probably could have ended Roy Jones's life in that ring, but after he knew that he hurt him, he was taking it. Like, you could tell, dude, that he was like, all right, I gotta this is supposed to be a tie, so I can't like kill him actually, or not.
Meanwhile, Nate Robinson got like knocked the fuck out, just absolutely just slept.
One of the best memes I saw from that was when they were raising the hands of Roy Jones and Mike Tyson. They put Nate Robinson in the background on the ground, and he was like still sleeping.
Yeah, he was still there, still sleeping on the canvas. Yeah, I saw that one too. Gosh.
Dude. So let's get down to brass tacks, bro. Talk about why we're here and how we got to this point. So, in the great state of Wisconsin, there was a recount done recently. $3 million was approximately spent by a particular campaign because they alleged massive voter fraud. What did they find? 87 more votes for Joe Biden. So each one of those votes, which went against him anyways, cost him like $35,000 per vote. Just have it go the other way.
That's so funny. And then meanwhile, you heard about the guy who donated $3.5 million to help like to Trump's like lawyer fees, basically, to fight, right?
Oh,
and then now he's suing Trump because nothing has come of it.
Dude, I gotta look this up. This is too good not to share.
You heard about that though, right?
No, I did not. Okay, hold on. What? I don't know where you saw that. Because I can't find anything about it.
Hold
have
on.
to find it. Yeah, I don't.
Oh, I'm looking for it right now too.
I just keep seeing a lot of these articles saying that why would any law firm take this case on? Oh my God. Huh. Yeah,
I'm going to send it to you right now. Hold on.
Are you going to send it in the chat?
I'm sending it. I can send it to your email or your.
Send it to the email. Send it to the email if you can. so I can read it, do a
Yeah.
little bit of digging myself. But yeah, in any case, like even if that is loosely based in reality, even if it's truly based in reality, it's just how many 30 something times he's tried to sue, or he's got that many cases going, and so far like 30 of them have all been just laughed out of the courtroom effectively.
Yeah, it's well, okay, so here's the thing. Oh, it's 2.5 million, not 3.5. But so Trump is saying, like, on Twitter, and Trump and the moronic Trump twin boys are saying on Twitter that all this voter fraud is happening, right? They're trying to convince the court of public opinion. The problem is that the actual courts of law require a higher standard of proof and evidence to.
Oh, okay. So you know what? Like I'm finding. I'll share my screen because I researched the dude after you told me his name and sent me that article. I'm just gonna share this shit. We can bring people in. Into the Thunderdome. All right. So you gave me his name, Fred Eshelman. So this is probably because it's not in like mainstream media, which is what everyone is always hating on, the mainstream media. All right, guys. So this is not mainstream media. This is like a local Houston paper or outlet. Let's take a look and see what this says. I have not read it. We're reading it in real time. Pro-Trump donor is suing a Houston-based group who promised to investigate, litigate, and expose suspected illegal balloting fraud. North Carolina businessman, founder of Eschel Ventures LLC, donated $2.5 million to the group, according to court documents. So not only is this not a mainstream media outlet, even though it's an ABC 13, but that's a local thing. It's not like ABC's main domain.
My cat's stealing the show right now.
New tonight, a Houston nonprofit organization called True the Vote is responding to a lawsuit. A man from North Carolina named Frederick Eshelman sued, saying he gave $2.5 million to that group.
It's unfortunate this thing came up, but you get the idea. So this actually is a local,
because the group was going to investigate allegations of voter fraud in the latest presidential
voter fraud. They paid a bunch of money to a group that said it would cost about $7 million to do the investigating and the processing to try and bring about these totally legitimate claims that no one's been able to find anywhere, at least not en masse.
We heard the governor of Texas offered a $1.1 million reward for any information about voter fraud.
The governor of Texas did that?
Yeah.
Dude, they're so desperate now, dude. How desperate do you have to get? Like,
dude, that and like, okay, so you think if it actually is real, you think someone's not going to try and like get that million? Like, shit, man, I would want to get that million. Part of me wants to go find some voter fraud just to get that million. Well,
and like, and at what level are they insinuating this happened, right? Because you're talking about having to overturn literally hundreds of thousands of votes in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, in order to flip those. So like, even if you find like 10,000 instances of voter fraud, which over the course of 150 million votes is not, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not a very high number. It's like 0.001% of an instance. Yeah. And most elections are decided by far more than, 0.001%.
Yeah.
So,
well, and like, here's the thing. So are there specific small cases of voter fraud and issues with balloting and people voting twice? And like, sure, absolutely. Is there enough of those? Is it widespread, systematic voter fraud, though? That's the issues. It's not.
Well, and like when they're
That's what they're
when they're
trying
counting
to
these
claim.
votes, whether they count these votes by hand or by, a machine, the answer comes up pretty much the same. I mean, within a few differences of votes here or there. So like, are we saying that like the people who may be Republican and Democrat are all inherently corrupt, or that the machine which is built is itself corrupted? Like that just seems like such a
Yeah.
far stretch. And when you consider like the way that the technology works, oftentimes to try and pull something like that off, there would be some breadcrumb trail to follow that would lead you to some genius mastermind that was plotting this whole thing from the start. But we're not.
Yeah.
This isn't a James Bond villain situation, right? This is one president who, in this unprecedented moment, is refusing to concede based on the erroneous proclamation that widespread voter fraud exists. And when you look at historical evidence researched by Republican and Democratic think tanks, they almost never find these widespread conspiracies about voter fraud that is purported by this particular president, or soon to be ex-president, this lame duck president, if you will. So, I get it. People are, this was a very volatile election, and people feel disenfranchised one way or the other. But at this point, like, if you want to be angry at the person who won the election, that's fine, but don't go out and say that the voting process is entirely delegitimate, or illegitimate. If you're going to say that, then I got nothing for you. And if you're not going to listen to reason or evidence, then there's really no reason to try and beat that dead horse.
I got something for you in a second, though. I'm sending it to be an email. Probably the
same one you sent it to earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, like, I'll admit, when Trump won in 2016, I was one of those people saying it was illegitimate, but I wasn't saying the voting process was illegitimate. I was just saying he is an illegitimate person to be running the country. Like, those are totally different situations. Was I upset that he won? Yeah. Do I think he should have been president? Never. He is not a legitimate candidate. He is total farce of a human being. He's basically a Shakespearean character. He's a joke. What's this thing say? Oh yeah, dude, that's absolutely true. Oh my God, it's true. It's true, that thing you just sent me. But I'm also already not excited about some of the cabinet picks he's made, but I'm hoping that that they improve. I'm sick of this like hedge fund lobbyist
Janet Yellen style, like,
and like people want to say that, well, this is what you should have expected with Biden, and they're like trying to say that Trump was better, and it's like he had as many or more lobbyists that he put in power within his first 4 years as Obama did in almost 8 years. So I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, and the turnover, which is there's no consistency in policy when you have like heads of agencies being like a revolving door on the heads of agencies. So how do you create any consistency in policy and how you're going to enforce said laws? It's like,
I guess that kind of makes sense when you think about why Supreme Court nominees have lifetime appointment.
Well, yeah, that's why Supreme Court does, right? So they can rule just like the way they're going to rule.
I almost wonder if like you should just have a, like a call it a 10 or a 20-year limit, because then at least you have the chance to work under a certain, like different regimes, so to speak, and you're able to make decisions without worrying about losing your job tomorrow. Like, unless you're totally unfit and, you've committed treason, or you're
Supreme Court justices can still be impeached.
No, I know, but I'm saying like it's a pretty impossible process, much like trying to impeach a president. Like, well, not impeach, but actually then remove him from office.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have a gross like negligence or like abuse of power.
Yeah,
that was used. I mean, honestly, if Trump would have been removed from office if the Senate was a Democrat majority, like without a doubt. I think
that's also like, I also don't think that's necessarily a great statement to make, because you want people, no matter what side of the aisle they fall on, to vote with the convictions of their character and their morals and their fiber and their, and their ethics, and how they view these situations as right and wrong. Like, it shouldn't be a partisan issue.
Yeah, well, but it is, though, and you're right. Like, it is a problem because it is, right? Like, you're never gonna find a Senate majority that will take a president of their party out of office. See what I'm saying?
No, I know.
Even though, like, in all honesty, in practice, Trump isn't a Republican. He's like a Trumpian. He's a completely different, like, enigma. And I think that the problem is that the base of Republican voters is enamored by Trump, right? They're going to go to their graves loving Trump, no matter what. Like, he can do no wrong in their eyes, right? Trump said it himself. He can shoot someone on Fifth Ave in New York City and no one would do anything about it, right? That's problematic. That he's like, I can get away with anything, no matter what. And it's because you got dinosaurs like Mitch McConnell in there, who honestly is more like a Trumpian more than a Republican as well. He knows how to play the game, man. I'll give him credit where credit's due, as far as he understands better than most how to play the game, right? And he uses it to his advantage. But I think that term limits on Congress and Senate need to happen, though. Need to absolutely happen.
By the same token, I also think that there should be some sort of job security within people who hold high positions that are supposed to be nonpartisan, right? Whether it's the director of the FBI or, anybody who holds.
For the most part, they are. For the most part, they have been, though, at least in practice in the last, 20 years, besides the Trump administration.
Like at the beginning of every presidency, they just appoint a bunch of new people instead of keeping almost anybody in place. It's almost entirely a switchover. Like, it's a whole new management coming in and taking the job.
For a lot of the agencies, yes.
But that's
FBI and CIA, not necessarily, because like Comey had the job, right?
Like the Department of the Interior, the Secretary of the Treasury, like all that sort of stuff like that. I think then you should be able to, you know what I mean? It just seems crazy.
But in practice, what I'm saying is, like, yeah, in practice, there have been a few people who have gone through multiple administrations, both Democrat and Republican.
I can't think of any recently.
Huh?
I can't think of any recently, though, in the last 3 or 4 presidencies.
I mean, okay, so Robert Reich was Secretary of God, what was it? Dealt with like employment and everything like that. He was hired in the last year of Bush 1's, I believe Bush 1's administration. Clinton kept him. Bush 2 didn't. I mean, chair of the Federal Reserve usually will stay over. Not attorney general, but like deputies and stuff like that, they will stay over, right? So I think that the problem with that is that when you have a different administration in, they have different goals they want to get done. Yeah. And so I'm just stoked Betsy DeVos is out. I'm stoked that we're going to have a Department of Energy, like Secretary of Energy, that actually like knows what the hell he's doing now, or she's doing. At least put the right person in there. A book you should read, Luca, if you haven't, is The Fifth Risk. Talks all about presidential like Trump's transition and like how he's putting people in the job that aren't qualified and know nothing about what they're supposed to be doing. Putting an oil man in as Secretary of Energy But Secretary
isn't that what Joe Biden's doing right now? Like he
is
just
to like oversee our nuclear arsenal and like all this. It's like crazy.
Well, but wait. Like I'm pretty sure that Joe Biden just did basically the same thing. Like he just appointed someone who.
I don't know if he's appointed anybody for that position yet.
I just saw it.
Not that one. I don't think. I know he's done the economic stuff.
I swear I just saw it today. Interesting. I'll have to look more. I did not think we were actually going to talk about that, so I did not.
Yeah, me neither. We
Didn't
just
have it.
faded into that. But I don't think he's appointed it. I think he took care of like the Fed, a bunch of the economic advisors and stuff like that today for sure. I know that. I don't know if he's gone anywhere else. You know who I'd really like to see in that cabinet or as like the UN ambassador would be Pete Buttigieg. Andrew Yang as well. I know he's probably going to get a job in the administration. You got a lot of up and coming talent, young talent that I think needs to start making waves within the administration under the Biden, you know what I mean, umbrella. And then you go from there and, you know, I think Pete Buttigieg and Andrew Yang were both like really solid candidates for president. They just needed a little bit more experience. And I think by keeping them in the administration, you give them that experience and you kind of like pass the torch on. And I know that's something that Biden has said he wants to do. So we'll see on that.
I mean, truthfully, like, I don't know if he's going to get through a first, let alone second term if they decide to reelect him. So, like,
well, I think he's already said that he's not going to run again.
Everyone says a lot of things.
I don't think he should.
I mean,
your one term, don't worry about like, you know, make your stand on one term and then, you know, pass the torch on to other people. And then hopefully
frozen. Well, I think as it stands, that's probably the end of the chat today. Unfortunately, our good friend Cody got cut off mid-thought there, but at least he left us a beautiful, lasting imprint. I will say that, you know, I'm hopeful. I'm definitely more hopeful now than I was when Trump won, because Trump is just a divisive, megalomaniacal, crazy person who was given way too much power and authority that he never should have had. So I'm glad that we have a new administration, but I'm weary of some of the people they've appointed, and I'm skeptical, but I'm hopeful. Anyways, if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe, hit that like button, share the video. Hopefully you learned something, or at least got a few laughs, killed some time, had us on in the background like a dear, sweet old friend whose memory occasionally pops in and out of your existence. In any case, catch you guys later.